The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
For at least a decade, people have questioned who, in fact, is Barack Obama. Most recently, Donald Trump comes back with the $50 million for the birth records. Please say good morning. It's a pleasure. Welcome to 710 KNUS. Randy Foreman is our guest. Hey, Randy, good morning, man. Welcome to Denver.
Good morning, Peter. I'm not totally unfamiliar with Colorado. I worked for Ben Nighthorse Campbell during the 9/11 period. So I've been out to Colorado a couple of times, and I appreciate talking to you.
Yeah, Ben and I have a real connection with Ben through motorcycles, and Linda. So Ben's a good friend. Yeah.
That's how I found my way into his office, basically. But that's another story for another day.
For motorcycles, you found your way in with Ben?
Well, yeah, that's right. When I worked for the Senate Post Office, when I got my first job in Washington, it was because I found he had a policy about how he handled his mail. There was a book that he was about not to accept from Sonny Barger.
Yeah.
Sonny Barger about Sonny Barger that was a former Hell's Angel, and he was about ready not to accept it. And a colleague of mine in the post office told me, "Hey, you want to take this book to him in his office? He'll want that." And that's how I found my way into his office, and eventually met his staff and worked for him.
Sonny and Ben are friends, and
exactly.
And as you know, Ben was a corrections officer in California, in the prison systems, and also was on the judo team representing the United States in, I think, '64. I think he was the heavyweight.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then he sold jewelry, and ultimately ran for the Senate and everything else.
No, absolutely. I mean, storied history. I see him from time to time. I see Linda from time to time. He's kind of a remarkable character.
Exactly.
And he really lit the Democrats up remember when he changed sides. Oh my God! And they start.
Exactly. Yep, he sure did, and that's totally. It made it an interesting office to work in for that reason.
Oh, I'll bet. Were you there when he switched over?
No, I was there in 19. It was the 2001 9/11 period in his office, and that's when I was there.
Where did you grow up, Randy? Where are you from originally?
I'm originally from Waterloo, Iowa.
Okay.
And I lived in Washington for now. What is it? I've now lived in Washington now for 14 years. I've heard you talk about the birth certificate all the time.
Yeah.
And the clips about it, and basically I got interested in it from a phone call with my dad on the phone, and basically told me, hey, he has no birth certificate, and I kind of thought, it's no big deal. But I kind of looked into it. I looked into it more, and I saw a deeper pattern. And you know how Mike Zula always talks about when he saw the signature stamp moved, and he says from a law enforcement perspective that's when he knew that was a forgery. Mm-hmm. I, on the other hand, having a political science background, when I saw a document with all sorts of with all sorts of controversy behind it, from a leftist in the 1960s in a Microsoft Times New Roman font, it fit the pattern of what happened during the George Bush National Guard controversy.
Yep.
I saw a pattern, and this is exactly why I was like, we got to know more. We got to know more. And I mean, Washington can handle the complex, but this is the simple. I mean, you have a document that has it can be changed. What is it? It takes like 6 or 7 changes of that typewriter ball. Has numerous letters that match pixel for pixel, and it makes you wonder why the world stopped suspecting Photoshop in this instance.
Well, again, good morning, everyone. This is Randy Foreman. He has now joined the cadre of men and women who, for at least a decade, have pushed and pried and worked hard and diligently to try to begin to understand who is Barack Obama. I got into the fight. I'm trying to think what triggered me. It was the birth certificate before the forged document dropped, but when there really was no birth certificate, and some of the people that I had a lot of respect for at one time, I lost immediately when I watched them just connive and lie and cover up. including Bill O'Reilly. I should put O'Reilly principally on that list.
Mm-hmm.
But we still come to this, and when I have people like you, and you have, like I said, you've now joined the inner circle. When I talk to people, yesterday we had somebody I really respect on, Pam Geller, and she started talking about what she said. This is who this guy is, meaning Barack Obama. And I said, with all respect, Pam, you don't know who he is. And
we don't.
And I don't. I'm not an expert on his life, but I'm pretty good about it. And I don't know who he is. And
well, I mean, as I've always said about this doc, I mean, we don't know where he was born, but we know one thing is that the documents that he's released did not purport to the story that he's told.
Thank you.
That's the one thing for sure that we can say. I mean, that we can definitely, we know it's the document's a forged document. We know it, and it's just, it's, I've now lived in, what is it now, most of this period of this whole Obama administration in Washington, and it's kind of like living in Washington during the time of Barack Obama is like living in Versailles during the time of the French Revolution.
Oh, wow. Is that great? During the time of Louis. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
And that's what it's like. You have parts of this city with skyline of this city that didn't exist several years ago, and it's I mean, but the point is that people have become so blind to it because of it.
Well, I like that. We could have Natalie Jarrett as Madame Defarge, like knitting the names of who was going to get it. I had a conversation once with a pretty prominent congressperson who said to me, "We all know the story's not straight," and I'm paraphrasing. He didn't use the words "not straight." He said, we all know there's problems with the story. And I'm looking at him going, and then what? I mean, I've
met a Senate Chief of Staff, a former Senate Chief of Staff, who basically told me the same, same thing. Yeah, many of us are concerned about it. And I'm like, well, why don't you say something about it? Why don't you go to the floor and talk about it? This whole thing, think Eric Cantor last night he could have saved his congressional career had he went to the floor of the House and called for a forensic document examination.
There's no question. There's no question. Cantor, I hope he's the first of many Republicans. We'll see. We have Tom Tancredo coming on today. I tell you what, that put wind in a lot of people's sails yesterday, what happened in Virginia. I mean, a lot of people got wind in their sails. But coming back full circle, Randy Foreman is with us and asking again this question: who is Barack Obama? So who is, if I ask you, and I know that nobody can know it, who do you believe he is?
I don't know. I mean, do I know who he is? I can just say this. I mean, what is it? The broken clock theory, the broken clock being wrong twice a day.
Yeah.
What is it?
It's right twice a day.
The broken, or whatever it is, and how this guy runs and governs this country. You can't just say, oh, he doesn't care. He's got the wrong policies or whatever. That's not the case. It's not just wrong policies or whatever. It's a systematic trying to govern us off the rails. It's systematic. And it's...
I noticed yesterday, again, it's really interesting, this school shooting, again, another school shooting. It's fascinating to see how this works. The liberal and the progressives and the Democrats have made schools gun-free zones. So if you're crazy and you have a gun, that's the great place to go because it's a gun-free zone. And
I read back John Lott's study. John Lott was saying that James Holmes went specifically in
there's no question. That happened very close to where we're sitting right now.
Right, yeah, and he said he went to that theater specifically because it was a gun-free zone.
There's no question. Having said that, yesterday I was watching the president. Now he wants to do the Australian gun take, and there's this really interesting theory that I'm reading, and it's called the sprint to the finish. This is June 11th, 2014. He is out of office, in all intents and purposes, 2016, and then he becomes really the true lame duck. Having said that, that do you believe, and then we'll get back to the specifics of his life. Randy, do you believe he's in the sprint to the finish right now?
Yeah, after Bergdahl.
Yeah.
I mean, there was, I can't remember who I listened to this last weekend that said that, or someone said basically, or it was O'Reilly,
Yeah.
that he talked with someone that said, oh, he knows public opinion is cratered on him and he's not going to get it back, and this is what he's doing. And I mean, Rush talked about it the other day. I mean, this is what this guy's doing. Totally. Yeah. And the question is, we don't know necessarily if he's gonna finish.
Well, it's the scorched earth. You just burn it to the ground as you move. I still come back to, I personally believe, and even taking a look at this Bergdahl story, and by the way, we have your videos up. Thank you very much. Your videos on the quest for who is Barack Obama. Our website, 710knus.com. We'll talk more about that. But when he's in the Rose Garden, and Bergdahl's very bizarre father starts speaking, as Robert Spencer said, 9th century Arabic, and it switches over to Pashto, and he's got this bizarre look on his face. But the president has the S-eating grin when he hears him speaking Arabic, and immediately, I mean, there's not even and he's just in his arms, and they're hugging one another, and everybody that I have respect for scratches their heads and said, what was that about?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things you watch this president. There's a lot of things you go, what the heck was that? And the thing is that you don't know necessarily, we don't know, again, it's just like the birth certificate. We don't know what the truth is, but we know what we've been told is not. We know what we've been told is not the correct story.
Yep. I agree.
We know something. We know that's the total thing about this guy. It's just always like that, and maybe that.
But the principal question remains, and I don't know if you know Joel Gilbert or not. I'm a fan of Gilbert's.
Yes, and he did the movie in Ohio, or took it up to Ohio.
The one Dreams from My Real Father, and I believe as he believes that Frank Marshall Davis is to a high degree of probability Barack Obama's biological father. But we had after the when Trump came back on Memorial Day and said, about the 50 million, and a round table of people that I respect. We had like 4 or 5 different people on 2 different shows, and every one of them had a different story. In other words, when I would turn to somebody and I'd say, what do you believe the story is? Well, my research or my deductions make me believe this.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody, I believe that. Somebody, I believe this. But not one of them believed the official story. But every one of them had another, like, things that we can agree on. When baby Barack was less than 2 weeks old, his mother. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, what was the book that was? Oh gosh, the book that Jay Carney said that they showed him the birth certificate, and I forget by the ABC News reporter, even their story about this, what the life narrative is.
Yeah, he doesn't know it. I mean, I think Carney may be a decent man who's had enough.
Exactly.
I hope that that's true, that Carney finally said, I can't do this. I'm not Joe Biden. I got to get out of this. But no, I'm serious. But she takes that baby and she goes to Seattle, and that leads people to believe, the baby was born in Seattle. And then you go back to the biography that he has already, and that he himself wrote, that he was born in Kenya, or all this insane stuff, but the story that he tells, and told as recently as 2 years ago, that he was 2.5 years of age, going to the airport with mommy and daddy to say goodbye as daddy went to Harvard. Now, he told that story to a group of kids. We have the audio, the video of him doing it. It isn't true. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing is you talk about the number of different stories. The story we're going to get into about interviewing the members of Congress and asking them about this story, every single one of them had a different story about what the heck was going on about this.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and that's the strange thing. They don't have a story about what the heck is going on with this.
No, and I agree. And like I said, I have saved all the, I was the target for the Denver Post and Rocky Mountain News, and they used to make political cartoons about my, the birther, and I wear that jacket proudly. And, all the emails, racist birther, and, just all that kind of stuff. Okay, fine. But not one of these people would come on the radio show. Not one of them would come into the studio or even do it by phone and debate the principal points of this man's total fabrication of a life. Yeah, well,
they're afraid to.
Well, fear is a great factor for these people because they have the need to be right. And I mean, I look at the story, and then after we pause and come back, we'll begin with your work. But there is no question in my mind that the life story, that's the story that was first championed here when the Democrats had their convention, when he talked about, quote, the improbable story of the goat herd from Kenya and the farm girl from Kansas. First sentence, 2 lies. I mean, it's just like, and the Denver Post, Rocky Mountain News, big media, they lapped this stuff up like mother's milk. And no one, and no one said, prove it. And
that's right.
And I think they've now invested so deeply into the lie that it's impossible for them to say they were wrong.
Right.
And but the principal question, then we'll pause and come back, is suppose everything that and you and I are using the right words, believe. Suppose everything I believe is true. What then does it do to all this legislation, all these appointments, all this insanity? What happens? Do the wheels come off?
Yeah, the wheels are going to come up. Yep, yeah. Mass chaos.
All right. Hang on, sir. I'll bring you back. This guy's great. Again, joining in, the quest for fire. Randy Foreman, now joining the legions, right? The Legion of Doom. Randy Foreman is with us. And
thank you.
Again, I welcome everyone questing who, in fact, is Barack Obama. And I just turn it over to you. We have your work up on our website, 710knus.com. Randy, how do you even want to begin it? I always say that this guy is an imposter. He's a fraud. He has a forged birth certificate, forged selective service registration card. The SSN, the Social Security number, is stolen. Belongs to a dead man. And he could not pass an E-Verify.
Exactly.
So who is he?
That's the thing we're trying to get answers for. Basically, if all Congress needs to do is go through the phone book of this city, find a retired forensic FBI forensic document examiner on his lunch hour, and if they went to the well of the House and said, well, we don't have the truth. I mean, what is it? The latest YouGov poll says that 40% are in doubt about his eligibility, and that's rising. I mean, 40%. This is not a settled question by any means. So that's why I've got involved in this fight over the years. Looking at this question, I feel like a little bit differently than most people because I live here in Washington, and I see the blindness that people have to it. It's stunning.
So
it's absolutely stunning.
What would be the principal things that you would tell someone, a novice, to look to?
Well, what would I tell people to look to? That's a great question. Like I said, I look for a pattern. I looked for a pattern when I started with this issue. I looked at the fact that the font was. I mean, this is what they've done before, and they've done before. Why does he spend so much money defending himself on this? I mean, if he really believed in this document, he would welcome any sort of forensic document examination of this thing. He would welcome it. Nope, he doesn't do that. He has done everything. I mean, and then he ridicules everyone that looks into it. And now they got these birthers, they ridicule it. And I'll never forget the first time I was ever called a birther when my Twitter file from someone at Media Matters when I was arguing about it. And instantly, oh, yeah. So, I mean, the way that they call people names about,
well,
this is what
but
I think
that's why you put some some starch in your spine is if that's the best they got, if that's the best that Media Matters or any of these people had, and if that's the best they got, they don't have enough. And if all they can do is attack you as a racist or you as whatever they want to call you, but don't deal with what you say, that's, I mean, as we know, that's out of the Saul Alinsky handbook, and it's the game that's played by the progressives and the politically correct. We now find we have racist questions. We now have racist thoughts. Anyone who dares question the president's eligibility is themselves a racist. And so that's how they shut these, and not that the big media people were going to do it anyhow, but the greatest fear of any of these prominent media people is to be called that name. I mean, they'd rather be a child molester than be a racist.
Or be a birther, or what?
Or be a birther. Thank you. And I say this all the time locally here. The Republican Party establishment will rather lose than have a guy like Tom Tancredo win. These people are they're predictable. They truly are.
Well, you got to look. The Republican Party is in the maintenance of big government right now. That's what it is. That's what the party establishment is into, and that's why you've got a Tea Party.
Of course,
you got a Tea Party that's questioning this.
But come back to this. So
sure.
What are we going to see when people look at the videos that we have up on our website right now? Your videos, what's there?
Sure. What my major story that I did over a couple weeks after I went up to the Hill around April. It's been the 3-year anniversary since this document's been released. So I went up to the Hill, went to the Rayburn House office building, the subway landing, and took my iPhone microphone and went up and tried to find members of Congress and asked them about, how have you examined the document? And I didn't basically left it open-ended, tried to do it. I'm not a media professional like you guys are. So,
I'm not one either.
You're not one either. But anyway, I tried looking, tried asking members of Congress, and we got some, over the 13 members of Congress, we had some interesting, the few responses that we got were interesting, to say the least, how different they were.
Examples.
Well, I mean, basically we got Bobby Rush saying, I don't need to know what he is who he says he is.
Wait a minute, stop. Bobby Rush beat Obama, as we know. Obama's first attempt, Bobby Rush, former Black Panther congressman, beat Barack Obama, beat back his challenge. And what does Bobby Rush say that doesn't matter?
Yeah, he just said it doesn't matter. That's what he said. It didn't,
Wow.
He is who he says he is.
Wow.
What else? I talked with who else did I talked with Carolyn Maloney, and I brought up Reed, probably the only one that's ever brought up Reed Hayes to her.
Oh, yeah.
And Reed Hayes asked her about, your own document examiner doesn't support this?
That's right.
Huh?
Yeah.
I mean, the interviews that I did are literally, it shows the Peter principle the Peter principle, not Peter Boyle, but the Peter principle of you rise to your level of incompetence.
Well, indeed. I agree.
This is your Congress. They don't even bother to look. My question was simply, have you examined the document? And time and time again. And then I got spinned answers from Steve Scalise of Louisiana. Steve Scalise basically said, well, we've uncovered stuff about Solyndra.
Yeah.
Excuse me? I'm asking about, my question is not about Solyndra. My question is, have you examined this document?
Yeah, well, that's called misdirection.
He's talking about a few solar panels. I'm asking about just basically, is the guy who's on the nuclear launch button, is he who he says he is?
One of the things that comes up, and we'll bring it up with Corsi again, Corsi is one of the original master blasters on this with his book, and I think when his book was about to drop, I think it's one of the reasons why they dropped the forged document initially was Jerry's book was coming. Those things aside, I mean, all those things aside, these guys are predictable, and they're on the run because, as you pointed out earlier, the statistical variance, the evidence in this country is more and more people, people with like above room temperature IQ, now begin to realize that this guy has run a con. I always said that the Clintons ran a grift. Bill and Hillary Clinton were grifters. They grifted the country. This guy's conned the country.
Yeah.
And I watched Hillary Clinton the other night. It's continuing the grift. I mean, it was like the grift continues, but there's something called the long con and the short con, and Barack Obama is running the long con. But
exactly.
But now, what would happen conceivably if there is this eureka moment where somebody steps forward and really does blow the whistle on the whole thing, and not some doofus with a radio show, or you, or Gilbert, or Corsi, or Jack Cashill. There's a list of people now that grows. Even maybe Donald Trump. But then what would happen? What would happen, Randy?
Well, that's what, when you look at what Mike Zullo is doing. I mean, Zullo is promising right now earth-shattering information.
But they've been doing it for too long. I want to see it now.
I want to see it too, but I'll say this. I wrote another column about it. It's just, I think Mike Zullo is behaving commensurate.
I do too.
Commensurate with what a law enforcement investigation is doing. Totally. Yeah, and I know we want to see it and everything else, but I also think too, I don't know, and that's why I think this is what I can do. And in the meantime, is there needs to be a journalistic effort to ask these people.
But remember, on the record. Remember what the mainstream big media does to his boss, to Sheriff Joe. They beat that guy like a redheaded stepson, and they're going to continue to do so. And and there has to be, like Joseph Heller says, something happened. Something has to happen. And now they're laying Bergdahl off on Chuck Hagel. Chuck Hagel did it, please. But what I'm interested in, again, is if, in fact, it were to happen, and wave the magic wand and, the emperor has no clothes, what would happen?
I think you'd see markets fall. I think you'd see just total. Maybe this was the plan all along, to set up a guy who was totally ineligible so it could crash like this. Who knows? I mean, but
you don't know.
We don't know. I don't know. I mean, I'm just throwing. These are wild guesses and speculations. The document, the stuff I've got in front of me. This guy is not. This guy isn't some. Doesn't have the life experience of an American. He doesn't.
But you don't know that because again, knowledge and belief are really interesting but separate things. I can believe the moon is made out of green cheese, and I could believe that till the day I die. But the truth of the matter is, it isn't. So belief is different than knowledge. Belief is what religion is based on, and what progressive belief is based on, and what liberal thought is based on, and what certainly saying Barack Obama is a legit guy. Those are all beliefs. Knowledge may say something altogether different. And so I'm going to set this question up and take a pause. I want you to tell me what you think his real life story is. Our guest is great. You can look at his videos. They're really classic. He goes up on the hill and he does this, remember Jay Leno used to do this, just walk up and ask people questions. He asks these Congress people about Barack Obama, and it's laugh out loud funny, their response. Another one joins the fight. Ladies and gentlemen, on the radio show with us in Washington, D.C., Randy Foreman from Newsblaze on Obama's life. And he was only going to be with us for about 20 minutes, and this is really stretched out. We were talking off air of the team. The team was saying how much they like you. So I said, yeah. I said, nah, he's another guy that's in the fight. So, Randy, here's the question. The best of your ability and your work, and your videos are up on our website, 710knus.com, and some of them are just laugh out loud funny. That Bobby Rush one is really hilarious. But having said that, what do you believe, and again, we're using the word belief, what do you believe this guy's life story is? Where was he born?
My estimation, I think we need to do more examination of his Indonesian part of his life. I think there's a lot more to that part of his life. I I can't say. I would love to be able to sit here and say, oh, yeah, I know definitively, yes, this is. But admittedly, I'm going to hedge my bets on this question and say I think that's a stone that's got to be turned over more in this part of the story. I mean, but I don't know where he's from. I really don't. I just know.
Here's a curveball. What religion do you think? What is his belief system?
Anything but Christianity. It seems like it's
Wow.
Who knows? Is it Saboot? Is it the Saboot thing, or is it Islam? No one knows, but we know Christianity just isn't what he doesn't act like a Christian. Go ahead.
Right. Who's his father?
It could be that I can't pronounce the guy's. Remember you shown the video of the Sumiwaju Jojo? I can't.
Right.
Could it be that? Could it be Frank Marshall Davis? But we know. I mean, Barack Obama.
Do you know how crazy this sounds? You know, if somebody just if we got in a time machine and I took everybody back to like 2008, and I said we're going to talk about this president this morning who's sitting in the Oval Office. And you start going, I don't know. Could be. Maybe it's this. People go, what, are you out of your mind? But that's really legitimate questions, right?
Yeah, we don't know.
Don't know.
We don't know. And the problem is this question is connected to every law, every bill.
Everything.
Everything. That's the bigger part, the fact what it's connected to. If it was just some guy who just, forged a birth certificate, who cares? But it's the fact of the matter is, it's the man in the highest office, and
I said, we wouldn't tolerate it anywhere else.
We wouldn't tolerate it. We just wouldn't tolerate this anywhere else. And like I said, I think members of Congress, just like what I've done, should be asked this question. How do you examine this document? How do you examine this? And that's what I would like to do more of. And I think we should go out and do it. We should definitely go out.
Well, you and part of that, and I wish you'd talk some of this. When you went to Republican Congressman Peter King, and this is a Republican. He's a stalwart. He's a Republican guy. Guys, watch the videos. 710knus.com. Peter King says to you, "We have more important things to do. I have no more comment." What? Here's now. If you will, no, you do, please.
I was on Where's Obama's Birth Certificate with Mike Valend, and we talked, and people heard that clip, and they were incensed by it.
Peter King.
I think that that could be his undoing someday.
I hope
that clip could be his undoing. I mean, it's just we have he said.
For the folks in the audience, honest to God, this is what our guest did. He went up on the hill, took his camera, and walked around asking these idiots that tragically represent us about these are the most well-informed people on the face of the earth, right? You hit Maxine Waters, and she said, I don't know nothing about anything. Now, there's a response.
That's what she said.
There's a response. I don't know nothing about anything. I love that. And then you go to Representative Peter King, who's a Republican. He's Mr. Republican. We have more important things to do. I have no more comment. He didn't make a comment in the first place.
He didn't make a comment. Well, the thing is, supposedly he's on the Homeland Security Committee and does all this. What if someone worked for the NSA and had a bogus document?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wouldn't we care at that point?
Yeah.
You
asked Bobby Rush, why not go to a forensic document examination to check it? Rush said, we don't need that. Right now, and it goes on to, he is who he says he is. And he uses the wonderful term, as far as I'm concerned. Folks, this stuff is up there. It's 710knus.com. John Conyers asked if he had examined the birth certificate. Conyers said, why would I do that? Hey, but John Conyers is a Democrat.
Right. But I mean, to me, the reason that he should do that is everything that he worked on, it could be called back like a penalty in a football game. With, everything. I mean,
it's amazing. But I urge you folks, go 710knus.com and watch these people. These are people that are tasked with I think the most awful one is Peter King.
Yeah,
I mean,
and I think, like I said, if you played that on your show right now, if you played that clip, you would rile people up.
I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're on the wall right now. We're against the clock. We'll get you back next week. I think we need another round table, but you're a welcome addition to our radio show, and a welcome addition to this fight. But again, I would urge everybody, and throughout the day, we'll have people go and look at the website. And this man takes his camera crew, they go up on the hill.
Well, I took my iPhone. That was
I'm sorry. I apologize. It looks like a crew when you're doing it.
I appreciate that.
No, shows you what I know just watching it, because it looked like it was well done. It is well done.
Well, and that's also thanks to my publisher in Australia, Alan Gray.
All right, fair enough.
I send it to Australia, and he edits it.
They cleaned it up. Okay, because it looks like you did it with a professional team, so with apologies. But they go to Bobby Rush, they go to Peter King, they go to Maxine Waters, and the responses are really laugh-out-loud funny. You did a good job.
Thank you.
No.
Thank you, Peter.
We'll talk later in the week, and or first part of next week. We'll have you back. The fight is on. And thank you for doing the radio show this morning, Randy, and say hi to your dad, and we'll talk real soon, brother. Thanks, man.
God bless you.
You too. Thank you. So, the fight continues. More people are in the fight.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.